of the sky or start basically falling down, while they duke it out really with their claws and in a very inhuman and very nasty, beastly fighting game.
Killing a dragon is no easy task. To do so, you must summon all your strength to bring the beast down.
There's times in Lair when, if you're really powerful, you can do special moves, and the knight gets much more involved in the combat here. Here he takes what we call a striker, and he can use that and cast it out like a whip. He can latch onto another dragon and yank himself over there, and he'll kill the other dragon's rider.
So he dies, and then you finally go up to the dragon, stab him into the eye, and you jump back, fly through the air. Your own dragon, who's been watching the whole thing, is swooping in and catches you at the last moment before you would actually splat onto the ground. And that's just one of the killing moves.
When rendering the soundscape for a world where evolution has taken a turn, where instead of lions roaming the plains, you have dragons flying the skies, believability is key.
People who follow Factor 5's work know that audio is one of our key focuses. If we're going to have these realistic-looking dragons that move realistically, the sound is just as important in terms of selling them as believable creatures.
So the team set out on an expedition to the San Francisco Zoo to record the sounds of all types of animals.
Of course, we're recording the bears and every large creature, but what's surprising really, if you go to the zoo and you listen in, we are actually recording real animals, which you wouldn't think of in sound terms at all.
According to the zookeepers, one of the shyest creatures at the zoo also makes the most unusual noises.
So for the koala bears, we were actually in the cages. We didn't get anything for a while. I think they were a bit nervous. And it was when we were leaving when they finally decided to start making noise.
But while the zoo is full of exotic animals, don't expect to see them in the game.
The fantastic creatures are based on real-world animals in many cases. So we, for example, have a pretty giant rhino-based creature. But of course, in terms of sound, we want to base it on elephants, rhinos, going into that direction. The PS3 is able to do sound the way movies have been doing it for the last couple of years, so we need to use the same techniques. A sound library always tries to go middle ground, and you don't want middle ground, especially not when you're talking about a massive giant which is smashing through the world. So when you're creating a movie, you go out and record individual sounds for that movie, and that's exactly what we're doing here for the game.
The coolest sound we got today probably was the hippo in the beginning when he was coming out of the water and doing this weird noise.
That was great. Yeah.
Afterwards, they started feeding them apples and a little bit of everything actually, and they were enjoying that quite a bit and chomping down on that, so got some good sounds doing that too.
While the animals were usually kept safely behind bars, the sound team always had to be careful not to get too close.
Having the lions lunge at me was by far the most exciting thing. I've never been about 10 feet in front of a lion while it's just jumping right at me, so that was really exciting.
And on occasion, the zookeepers led the team into locations strictly off limits to the general public.
Hi, we're going to go in here and you're going to see the bears up close, and there's bars, and I want you to stay well away from the bars because if you stick any equipment or fingers, they will be gone.
The polar bears were pretty exciting. I mean, all these animals, the big ones, just have this incredible low frequency to them that you just don't hear with any other type of animal.
Okay, guys, that's a wrap. Let's go.
Hey, wait a second. Come back.
And since the San Francisco Zoo didn't have any dragons to record, ultimately, the team had to improvise.
A dragon sound, obviously, is like nothing you've heard before. But then on the other hand, you want it to be real and coming out of nature. So what you take is you take a lion sound, and then that might be your bass line. Then maybe under it, you mix in a really, really low rumble from an elephant. And then on top of it, maybe an elephant scream.
One of the things that's really funny is that the biggest, loudest part of one of our dragon roars is actually a robin pitched way down low and slowed down, and it becomes this fearsome element in the creature's voice.
All of that really blends together. To the human ear, you subconsciously get this feeling this is a real sound, but you cannot really pinpoint it. And that's really the trick to sound design.
It's not funny! Come on!
When working on a next-generation title like Lair, the team at Factor 5 wanted the most realistic animations possible, so they turned to the motion capture experts at Sony Computer Entertainment.
Lair is a photorealistic world, and we want all of the animation and graphics to support that. Everything needs to be believable. And when you're dealing with the human characters, motion capture really is an excellent technology for getting that believable motion in a reasonable time frame at a reasonable cost.
Motion capture is the art of acquiring human motion via technology, and it's all based off of light. If your subject or your actor has a reflective marker on it, if one camera sees that marker, that shows up as a reflection in that camera. If then 3 cameras can agree on where it sees a reflection, it can then triangulate that marker in space.
Although motion capture has been around for a long time, one of the biggest improvements has to do with the quality of the performances.
This is my 3rd time doing motion capture. I've actually been doing martial arts since I was 13. I do a lot of action films, so they called me in for this because I have a lot of weapons experience also.
The hardest part as an actor doing motion capture is probably same as most actors when they're dealing with special effects, is you have to use your imagination because a lot of what we're dealing with is not actually there on set with us. Fight sequences are done in a way that is very surreal on set. Nothing really actually happens until it's all put together in the final game.
For Lair, the team used motion capture for many of the in-game cinematic scenes.
The scene that I was just doing, I was actually riding a dragon. And we're looking for water because I'm parched, I'm wounded, injured. Renkai, the other character who's played by Cindy, is fighting a spider monster.
I am playing Renkai, and I'm sort of the oracle. I'm the wise woman who convinces the hero to go and save the village.
I've never had to kill for a drink of water before.
You're more fortunate than many.
After that, we sat down next to a campfire and talked about how he was going to go on to save his people.
They murdered their families, destroyed their homes.
It's relatively easy to capture a single person doing things, but then when it gets to a crowd scene and you want to have that interacting with motion capture, it's a very complex process, but you get a level of emotional realism due to it, which beforehand and without motion capture is practically impossible to do.